Okay, so we have this pattern here that I've grouped together, and the idea is that we are wanting to use our SmartFlow command to flow this around this ellipse here. We're going to make an oval bangle. So this bangle, or the ellipse, is 56 millimeters by 46 millimeters inside diameter. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create a surface for our SmartFlow to work with. So what we're going to do is go into our curve menu and just select a single line. We're going to select the both sides option in the command line and just select a point. The end point will be fine, and in the side viewport just type in 5 and hit enter. Hold down shift and left click. That's going to give us a curve that is 10 millimeters long. Next thing we need to do is sweep this around this ellipse. So we're going to select our ellipse, hit F6 and go down to sweep one with history, and then click on our curve and hit enter. Now before we start doing our SmartFlow operation, we need to make sure that everything is in order for SmartFlow to work properly. So we're going to go to our shade mode here and click an option called Detect SmartFlow. Now what we need is for this red section here to be exactly where it is on the inside of the piece, and the outside to be shaded green. Now this is pretty important. If it's the other way around, all you've got to do is type in flip into the command line and hit the surface and hit enter, and that will flip around. So sometimes depending on how you've created your curve, you'll end up with this. If that's the case, simply just type in flip and click on the surface and hit enter, and that'll flip it around so that everything that you place on your base surface will appear on your target surface the way it's meant to hit. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is switch across just to our normal shade mode, and we're going to open up our transform menu and click on our SmartFlow option. But before we do that, we're going to select our piece and then hit SmartFlow. We're going to click on Auto Base, and that's going to create a base for us there. Now with this base, I'm going to put that onto the grey layer color just so we can see what we're about to do. Now what I like to do when it comes to SmartFlow is I like to get the dead center of something, particularly if I've got a pattern like this that I'm trying to flow onto it. So I'm going to grab a curve again. I'm going to switch across to my red layer color here and just draw from that midpoint there to there. And then I also want to just turn off my shade mode just for the moment, just so that I can get in and select my duplicate edge. I want to duplicate that edge there, and this edge right here, and hit enter. And then I want to draw just a single line between those two. So from that midpoint there to this midpoint here. Now what that's going to do is shade all that back up. Region select just this stuff here and use my move command from that midpoint there to this midpoint here, and that'll be exact right in the center of the base surface, which has transformed across to our target surface there. Now what we need to do is select our piece here, and we need to use our duplicate tool, and we're going to duplicate from, say, that point there, the end point, way across to that end point there, and across to this end point here, and hit enter. Now if you want to, you can put these onto a different layer color just so that it makes it slightly different, so you can visually see a difference there. It won't make any difference to the target. And then what we can do is we can select these guys here, and just in the looking down viewport, you can come across to the rotate and use the copy option from the midpoint of that curve. Hold down shift, left click, take that around, hold down shift again and left click, and then hit enter to kill the command. And what you end up with is something that looks like this. Now, you can see that we've got a gap here, and the reason we've got that gap is because this section here, this end piece, and that end piece are sticking too far over the base surface. Now, there's an easy way to fix that. Well, there's a few different ways, but the easiest way, rather than adjusting each one of your pieces, and you'd use that either by using your scale options, or maybe you'd use your gumball to scale those in and out, you can simply hit the base command here, and just by using your gumball just in the one direction, you can increase that very slightly and just check what's happening with it, and it'll actually start closing up the gap. And you can only move it in, short increments, but you can see the further out you move, if we move that all the way out, then that's going to provide a huge gap there. So the idea is that we need to kind of take that in a little bit, something like that there, and start closing that gap up a little. And you can maybe do this in maybe the looking down viewport with all 4 viewports open if you wanted to, just to see where you're at. That's obviously too far, but you really need to just be let's do that actually. Let's open that up like that and zoom in here. Just kind of take that out a little by little. You see that's moving outwards, so we need to kind of move in. And this is if you don't want to scale in your actual pieces, you do this. It can be a little bit laborious, I guess, and you can take it a little bit too far, and that can be frustrating too. But this is probably a good option for those who don't really want to adjust their initial parts. So what I'd want to do is I want to zoom in here and just make sure those parts in this area here, we want to make sure that's touching, which currently it isn't. So we want to just take that in just a touch more. That's good. So you've got that intersecting part there, and that works for me. I'm happy with that. So now that we've got that there, we can job bag that, obviously. And once you've job bagged the piece, then all you need to do is select your original surface and hit delete. And then you can select the base surfaces and delete those. And then if you need to, you can simply just select each piece and boolean them together if you need to, or run it through mesh repair and start either milling or printing it out. Alright, I hope that helps.